Hello and welcome back to our final day of CEC TV as part of CEC's 100th Anniversary Convention and Expo here in Orlando, Florida. CEC TV is here to bring you all the latest at this year's meeting. Coming up on today's program, we sat down with Dr. Danielle Kovach to talk about her CEC presidency and what she'll look to bring to the role. We spoke with Dr. Joy Banks about Project 2020 and its future objectives. Jessie Knaus is a former paraprofessional turned special education teacher. CEC TV wanted to learn more about Jessie's key influencers in making the switch. Dr. Mildred Boveda works with the Publications Committee and CEC Journals. We caught up with Mildred to learn more about recent publications. So Dr. Danielle Kovach, you are the president of CEC. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. So firstly, what a success the CEC's 100th anniversary has been. And for the meeting to be in person has been fantastic. As president, what's the feedback you've heard from attendees on how the meeting has gone so far?
Well, first of all, I am so excited to be here. Every time I walk into a room or walk into the convention space and I see people, I get so excited because I think, oh, we made it. Right. We made it. We're here. First and foremost, we looked at this convention as almost similar to a classroom. We know that our students are not going to learn if they don't feel loved, if they don't feel safe, and if they don't feel comforted. So that was our first priority. So we took every step to make sure that this convention, our members feel safe. So that way they can come here, they can learn, they can have a great time. The feedback that I've gotten has been phenomenal. I've been just stopped in the elevator on the way here and someone said, wow, this is great. This is going so well. Looking around, everyone has been so respectful of the guidelines that we put into place. It really is, it's truly a family, a community, and to have everyone here just feels so good in my heart. And for those people who couldn't be here, it's completely understandable, but we have our virtual conference coming up. So we have something for everyone, regardless of how everyone's feeling in their comfort level. We're just so excited to be here.
Wonderful. And as CEC enters its 100th year of leading special education, CEC is recognizing exceptional educators through 100 Stories. Can you tell us more about that initiative?
Yes, our 100 Stories project has been taking off. I'm so excited. Being a teacher myself, I understand and I know how difficult it can be to be a special educator, especially in the times that we've been under. And we wanted to do something that raises and elevates the profession and really highlights our teachers who have just been going above and beyond. And also to motivate other teachers to know that you're not in this alone. Here's what we're doing. Here's how you can keep excited and passionate about the field that you love. CEC has been doing so much to work on the attract and retaining of our educators, and this is one way to do it. What better way to say, hey, this is awesome, I love what I'm doing, than to go to the people who are actually in the field and are doing it. So I've had a wonderful time speaking with educators from not just across the nation, but internationally as well. I've been inspired. They've been, seeing what others are doing in their classroom and sharing it with everyone has been inspiring me as a teacher. And, then I go into my classroom the next day and I think, oh my goodness, I love how Melanie did this project in her classroom. I'm going to give it a try too. So it's just been a great way to focus on the awesome things that are going on with our teachers across the country.
So great to hear. So great to hear. And you became CEC president January 1st of this year. What will be some of the main focuses during your presidency?
Yeah, well, I've been president for exactly 18 days so far, so I'm a newbie. My focus, it's not about me, it's about our members and making sure that we are supporting our members, our professional, educational professionals in the best way that we can in order for them to serve our individuals with disabilities. We rolled out our strategic plan just 2 days ago, and I'm so proud of what we have in store. That plan outlines our steps for the next several years. And it's not just the plan itself, but what came to making that plan, that we gathered close to 2,000 member surveys. We've had focus groups with our divisions and units. I think we had 20-some hours with our board and our staff really fine-tuning and being intentional for what we need to step forward into the next century to make sure that our members are getting everything they need from us. We need to be supportive for our members so they can support those students that they serve. And that strategic plan moving forward, I'm just so excited to implement that, to work with work with our board, work with our staff, and work with our members. That's a living, breathing document that's meant to support the people that we love so dearly, that we work with every day.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to get that started.
It's definitely be an exciting year.
Yes.
I'm happy to hear all the great initiatives and strategic planning that's forthcoming. So thank you so much for speaking with me, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Well, you too.
Thanks.
You.
The Community Learning Center serves as an important role at Cleveland State University and the College of Education's curriculum and programming to help local communities, families, and school districts within the state. We caught up with CSU leadership to learn more about the center's work.
The center was founded over 25 years ago here on the campus at Cleveland State University in the College of Education. It started as a small program in one classroom on our campus, serving about 2 to 3 classes per semester. And the objective was mainly to provide a supervised setting for our College of Education teacher preparation students to practice their teaching skills under the supervision of the faculty here at Cleveland State University. The key programs we have in the CLC are in-person academic tutoring and assessment support services. We also offer remote academic tutoring and assessment support services. We also have an outreach tutoring program that meets in the schools in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. The volunteer tutoring program at the CLC trains tutors to work with K-12 learners in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Additionally, we train students who are not education majors but may be interested in learning more about the teaching profession. So students from other colleges within our university can apply to be a volunteer tutor and receive 4 hours of training to tutor students in our outreach program.
Working in the CLC has a huge impact on the community. First and foremost, it has a great impact on future educators like myself. It gives me the opportunity to come in here and work with the student, assess him or her, and then give instruction on it. And it helps the student because not every student who comes here has a disability, but some do. So it gives us the opportunity to work with students who are struggling. It gives us the opportunity to work with students who have disabilities and are in our communities. And it gives us the opportunity just to practice, and it gives us the opportunity to prepare for educators and almost learn on the job. I don't have a special education background. My undergrad was not in education, so I've been able to come here and really learn about the assessments and give them to the students and then grade them. It's a great change of pace to come in here because you're working with the student. It's not sitting, falling asleep in a class or grinding after, a day in school like I had. So it's nice to be able to come in here and get to work. You know what I mean? It's different.
The tutoring program here at CLC is very important to the community. Not many parents can afford tutoring outside of here, and having the opportunity to bring my child here for the month is phenomenal. She went through reading, and that's where she was struggling the most at. And Hannah, who was her tutor, she did an outstanding job. She used to want to be a hairstylist, but now she comes home and says she wants to be a teacher. When my daughter came home from tutoring, she wanted to tutor her toys, her kids. And that's how I noticed this program made a difference in her life.
The Community Learning Center is an important part of our curriculum and our program. There are 2 parts to this. One is it's an opportunity for the College of Education and Human Services at Cleveland State University to serve our community. That includes our parents and K-12 students in Cleveland, as well as our neighboring school districts. It also helps our students who are preparing to become teachers. This is an opportunity for them to work with students prior to their field experiences and prior to them going out and doing their practicum and their student teaching in their final semester. This kind of work prepares them to be better teachers.
So Jesse, you made the switch from a paraprofessional to a special education teacher. Can you describe that career path and what responsibilities from being a paraprofessional that made you make the switch?
Okay, so as a paraprofessional, I worked one-on-one with a kid on the spectrum in high school. And I made the switch because everyone in my district kept bothering me to become a teacher. So that was really...
So maybe they saw something in you that you may didn't see quite at the beginning, but now, of course, I'm certain that you're happy that you made that switch.
Oh yeah, definitely, it pays better.
And for those special education teachers that didn't have the same career path, what unique expertise did you gain by being a paraprofessional first?
Definitely the connection, understanding the connection with the students. Like, I know as teachers we get so overwhelmed with how many students we have. So having that opportunity to be just one-on-one with a singular student really enhances the passion and the drive to want to help the student.
Right, right. And for those paraprofessionals that are watching and wanting to make that switch, were there any important resources or tools that assisted with you becoming a teacher?
I would say the school. So what happened was I told the school that I wasn't going to pay for more college. If they paid for it, I'd go, but I was already in enough debt.
Right.
So they actually sent me a program. There's a program in South Carolina called SC Create, and if you work for the district, they'll pay for you to go get your master's or your bachelor's for special ed.
Wow, that's excellent. That's excellent.
So I just owe them 3 years of my life, and then I'm free.
Too funny. Well, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the conference, and all the best to you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course, of course. The ImDetermine Project, a state-directed project funded by the Virginia Department of Education, focuses on providing direct instruction, models, and opportunities to practice skills associated with self-determined behavior. Their website offers endless resources and tools for educators to use when focusing on self-determination with their own students. CEC TV caught a glimpse of what the amazing project is all about.
Back in 2006, the Virginia Department of Education was looking at post-school outcomes for students with disabilities. And we found that students weren't attending their IEP meetings. They couldn't really explain what their disability was. They couldn't really name any rights under IDEA or any accommodations they were supposed to be getting as a result of receiving special ed services. It was kind of a wake-up call. What we realized is we shouldn't be surprised that we're not seeing positive post-school outcomes because students really aren't, receiving the services they need and certainly aren't aware of what their strengths, preference, interests, or needs are. At that time, 3 different universities across the state and the Department of Ed came up with this idea of, let's focus on self-determination.
Self-determination, what we like to teach to the youth is just really being able to think through situations on your own. Doesn't mean that you're always by yourself or isolated, but it's knowing how to ask for help and when to ask for help when you need it, and then when to kind of take things on by yourself. The structure of ImDetermine, we have a statewide network that works in regions. So Virginia's split up into superintendent regions. We have youth leaders in each region, and we have what we call determinators in each region, which are the adult staff. And what we do is we combine those efforts and try to work with students, educators, and parents if they're wanting to know about how do I get my youth involved in their education. I've seen students go to their own IEP meetings and be involved or lead the meeting. What do I need to do that? That's when we can step in and say, okay, we have tools that can help you kind of prepare for something like that. But we also have these youth who have been through it and can share their story.
In elementary school and middle school, I didn't have a good understanding of my disability. All I knew was I was a little bit different because as everyone else was sitting in the class taking their test, I would always be taken out, or I'd be taken out of my classroom at random times. Going into the IMD project, I learned a lot more about myself and the struggles that I have with my disability, like my processing and my flipping of words, and not just words, but sometimes concepts and things like that. But I also learned, how to advocate for myself and what I need. to go and advocate for yourself for people who understand. It's a lot easier to put yourself out there, and once you start getting comfortable with people that you're comfortable with, it's easier to do it with people who may not understand what you're going through as much. But you have the confidence now to go out there and say, hey, this is what I need, and for me to work at my best level.
I think my own personal journey that also I think is reflective of the organization is that I came into this project thinking I have to be the advocate, that I have a lot to speak to the answers that are needed in the educational system. And I think as we've developed and we've grown, it's been a lot less of myself speaking into that and a lot more of empowering individuals with disabilities and youth with disabilities to speak into that. If I'm the one saying it instead of the youth, there's a lot of presuppositions or a lot of assumptions that I'm making about that person's experience. Whereas if it's the person speaking themselves, it's their identity, it's their world, it's their experience, and that's invaluable to hear.
I can't say Determine gave me a voice, but I can say that they gave me a lot of opportunities to use my voice and get comfortable with the fact that some people might not understand me, but I still get my point across.
First of all, self-determination is not an end goal. It's something you're constantly working on. It's a journey. And barriers don't end just because you graduate high school. If you go on to college, there's barriers. If you go to work, there's barriers. And watching them successfully navigate that and then share those stories with us, I mean, that's the best. That's what keeps me going.
We have Dr. Joy Banks, who's a committee member and chair of Project 2020 Engagement. Can you tell us more about how the project came about and what are the key objectives?
Absolutely. Project 2020 is an initiative that was started by CEC in order to recommit to issues of diversity, equity, and social justice. The conversation started with the IDC and in response to 2020's social unrest within our country. When that conversation started, the IDC actually contacted DDEL, which is one of CEC's divisions that is committed to diversity and equity for students with disabilities. And they wanted to invest in this initiative, ensuring that all of the divisions, all of the units and caucuses develop initiatives that actually support our most marginalized students.
Wonderful. And Joy, you are the Project 2020 Engagement Chair. How can we get more members and educators involved in the project?
I am the Project 2020 Engagement Committee Chair. We also have 2 other committees that are also focused on mentorship as well as professional development. So there are multiple opportunities for CEC members to make the decision about how they can engage in this focus on social justice and equity.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Project 2020 initially is a 3-year project. If we get to 2023, having hit all the benchmarks that the project has targeted, would we want to see the project extended or other projects created perhaps from it?
I think it's also important that we direct our CEC members to the website. There's a Project 2020 website that shows our first year progress and actually shows where we have engaged with the units and asked them what their interests are. We've asked them what types of needs they have as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've also asked our members to tell us about their experiences as it relates to racism and ableism. We wanted to know whether or not they thought that CEC was actually accomplishing the goal of best supporting our most marginalized students. So what I think is important is that we do continue to implement those goals that we've already established. I also think that what we can see afterwards is seeing the divisions actually take up these initiatives and making them a part of their everyday agenda so that they can actually impact those teachers that are in the classroom, so that we can impact those students who are most marginalized.
So naturally embedding it so it's just a part of the day-to-day work life.
Absolutely.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me, and enjoy the rest of the convention.
Thank you.
The University of Missouri College of Education and Human Development strives to prepare leaders in education to assist children, youth, and adults with disabilities to be academically and socially successful lifelong learners. With numerous national leading centers and initiatives to its name, CEC TV took a look and a glimpse at the activities in Mizzou.
There are a number of key issues that the nation is facing related to teacher professional development and science and mathematics. What are the best ways to prepare our special educators to teach math and science? We still need to do a lot of research and thinking more deeply about how we do that. And then at large, there's a real shortage of teachers for teaching math and science. So how do we fill those gaps, and how do we fill that need? And then how do we prepare the general educators, though, to teach science and math to our students with disabilities? Our department, the Department of Special Education, has numerous projects that are making significant impacts in the state of Missouri, in the schools and districts, and at large.
So at John Warner, we have about 20% of our students who receive special education services as a part of their education. We continue to have students come in and student teach with us. And so there are a couple other teachers here who went to Mizzou who are now host teachers for students at Mizzou. And so I think being in Columbia and being a part of Columbia Public Schools and the tie that they have with Mizzou, it's really kind of special, it's really important. Being able to kind of go back to your roots, and even as a host teacher, continue to learn through what that student teacher is bringing from their classes directly is beneficial to both parties. So we're teaching, but we're also still learning from what they're doing at Mizzou and asking their interns to do.
Behavior concerns are universal. They vary school to school, district to district, state to state, but one constant is all schools will deal with children and youth who display challenging behavior. And one of the things we know is that the sort of traditional kind of get tough, zero tolerance, trying to punish kids simply doesn't work. So there's this need to sort of rethink. And our focus is about building appropriate skills, not simply trying to reduce problem behavior. In other words, we want to build pro-social skills that we know will help them be successful both in school as well as post-secondary.
I'm working on a couple of different projects right now. One that focuses on middle school mathematics. So we're working with middle school math teachers to help support them in supporting their students who have some great need in learning. This is part of an Office of Special Ed funded program called Project STARE. I also have an early writing project where our focus is supporting and coaching teachers who are working with students who are struggling and have intensive needs in early writing. We've been really fortunate that during the time that we've been working on these projects, we've seen really positive impacts. For instance, with the early writing project, over the time that we've been collecting data, we've seen positive impacts on student outcomes, but also really positive impacts on teacher outcomes. And we're seeing those results sustain, which is really a goal of ours, not to just have it be while we're in the moment, but we hope that these impacts and the work that we're doing sustains over time.
I'm a proud Mizzou alumni, so I attended Mizzou for my undergraduate degree. Prior to my PhD program, I was a staff member with Missouri School-Wide Positive Behavior Support, which is housed in the special education department. Working with other students who were part of the PhD program and learning more about it and the department itself and the faculty and the experiences is what encouraged me to apply.
When I was searching for programs, Mizzou was the only university that had a special education department within the College of Education, and they had a degree specific to emotional behavior disorders, and I thought it was just the perfect fit for me. This opportunity at Mizzou has allowed me to take part in IES grants and gain the experience that a world-class researcher needs in order to make their mark in academia, in writing, in research. So I feel very lucky, very blessed, very fortunate to have this experience at Mizzou.
I'm joined by Dr. Mildred Boveda. Thank you for speaking with me today. For CEC members and viewers, can you tell us about the activities, the Publications Committee, and the CEC journals?
Yes, so I'm very excited to be part of the Publication Committee. I received the invitation about a year ago, and it's a group of us. We are scholars, we are administrators, teachers, all of us who are CEC members, and we are providing guidance for how we should choose editors and how we should approach journal articles and journal editorships, but also our books. We have CEC books, so nice. CEC publishes books, and we're creating some guidance and some guidelines and thoughtful processes for selecting editors, for selecting reviewers, and really to try to help our field make sure that we're equitable in the way we're pursuing publications and presenting publications representing high quality special education research, practice, and policy.
Wonderful. And why is it important for CEC to have a Publications Committee?
I think that we as a committee and we as a field sometimes can get comfortable. We have wonderful editors in times past. So we had 2 journals that CEC publishes that are exceptional journals, high-ranking journals. Teaching Exceptional Children is focused on practitioners, and Exceptional Children is a very high-quality, prestigious research journal. It's also important to understand that we've been around for quite a while. This year we're celebrating our 100-year bash.
Right, 100 years.
So, we need to make sure that as we honor those who have come before us, we also are responsive to the changes in our society and also the changes in the methodological approaches, the theoretical perspectives, the questions that those of us who are engaged in this work in advocating on behalf of children with disabilities are doing. So the Publication Committee is really focused on that and also responding to several calls throughout the field of people who are pushing us as an organization to be more transparent about the publication process. How is it that, let's say, a first-generation doctoral student can learn how maybe they can publish an article? How are people who are approaching research in a maybe non-traditional way in our field, how can they best communicate their ideas to those of us who are in gatekeeping positions in terms of the publications that we are producing from CEC.
Right, that's excellent, getting access. CEC publications and journals need to be made available. What's the best way for members to access this literature?
Well, when you are a member of CEC, you have access to Exceptional Children and Teaching Exceptional Children through the portal, like the CEC portal. So you should be able to, when you log in, just like you log in for your membership, you should be able to access those journals. Those of us who are in the academy, those of us who are college students, we should also be able to access it through our universities.
And then we also have in CEC many divisions. And so each division may publish it in a different, with a different publisher. So members, if they're a member of members of CEC who are also members of divisions, should really check in with the divisions and see the division leaders and see where they can access the journals from that particular division.
So definitely readily accessible for the
Absolutely.
members. Yes.
And also the accessibility question, I mean, we're in special education, so the word accessible it's very loaded. It means a lot of things. So we're thinking about, as a publication committee, how can we translate some of this academic language through maybe podcasts? And, you know, I love this idea of CEC TV. Maybe that's another way to make it more accessible to folks who may not necessarily have the time or ability to engage in all of these kinds of texts. So we're thinking about what are other ways that editors can make the research that they are presenting and the strong practice and policies that's represented in our literature more accessible in that way as well.
Right, being able to digest it in various ways and avenues.
And to translate it to an audience. What I love about CEC, which is different from other conferences I attend, is that we are a mix of people who are practitioners as well as scholars. And so the importance of us having communications and being accessible to one another, I think that strengthens our field. So that's another way to approach that accessibility question, and we're working on it.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dr. Boveda, for speaking with me today. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
The conference. I hope to see you soon at another CEC conference.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Zaro Institute on Transition and Self-Determination at the University of Oklahoma is best known for their online tools to help educators develop transition and self-determination skills for their students. Despite the new name, the Institute has offered timeless resources for educators and their students over the years. Let's take a closer look.
The state of Oklahoma has been experiencing teacher shortages for the past 3 decades. Among those is special education, along with mathematics, science, and foreign language. Those have traditionally been the high needs areas. As we've moved forward in the last decade, special education is especially a crisis area. So part of what I see as a College of Education, an important endeavor for us is to help meet those needs. And so at the University of Oklahoma, in the Janine Rainbow College of Education, we have the Zaro Institute for Transition and Self-Determination. And one of the things that it does so well is, of course, focus on that specialized area in special education that's transition. We know for special education students that there are transition points all along the way through their time in public schools and beyond. So from elementary school to middle school, from middle school to high school, and then from high school into college or into the working world. And the Zaro Institute focuses specifically on that.
The Zaro Institute is most known for a lot of the resources we have to offer educators and teachers to develop transition and self-determination skills for their students. Our website at the Zaro Institute is filled with resources that are free for teachers to use while they're teaching. One of our most popular resources is the Transition Assessment and Goal Generator. This is a transition assessment in which teachers can utilize to help plan for the transition portion of their IEPs each year. One reason that the tag is so popular is that suggested annual transition goals are given at the end of this assessment, and educators can use those goals, tweak those goals, and make them appropriate for their individual students.
We have a couple of lesson plans and curriculums that we have online. Our biggest curriculum that is very popular is the Me curriculum, and it is popular on our Teachers Pay Teachers and our website. We have thousands of downloads a month. It is a pretty large curriculum, but has some wonderful things and resources on there. We also have the Choice Maker curriculum. It's a large curriculum as well, but then to accommodate those teachers who don't have time to teach this year-long curriculum, we have lesson plans on there. We also have these things called one-pagers that we've been putting out that have a lot of information on one page, and they're linked up. So teachers can click on them and it'll bring them to a website that they can use to help create post-secondary goals for students. We have one-pagers that have all of the information on how to get students involved in the IEP, from short little snippet ways to all the way up to those curriculums. And I think that that's one of the great things, is they're a one-page document that you can pass along to teachers. They can use it however they need to use it.
One of the programs that the Zaro Institute offers is the Sooner Works program. This is an innovative college experience program for young adults with an intellectual or developmental disability. These students are able to come to OU, live in OU housing, participate in OU coursework, join student organizations, and really get the full college experience as with any degree-seeking student. With this, both our students in the Sooner Works program and regular OU students benefit greatly. Our students in the Sooner Works program learn really important independent living skills, what it's like to be an adult, and the regular OU students learn how to interact with students who have an intellectual or developmental disability. We know that the regular OU population is the next generation of leaders in this country, and the more familiar they are with young adults and adults with disabilities, the more those students are able to acclimate into regular life. So not even 50 years ago, we had a culture that was saying women can't go to higher education. We had a culture of people saying people of certain races and ethnicities could not benefit from higher education. We've totally proven all of that wrong, because women have excelled, people of color have excelled. And now it's time for individuals with disabilities to show that they are just as capable of going to college as with all these other populations. It is important for us to make sure that college is appropriate, that college is accessible, and really allow this population to achieve their highest potential.
I have to say that at the end of the day, when I finish my work in the classroom, it's just very rewarding. I leave with a lot of knowledge that the kids bring to me, and also I reflect on a lot of things that they have brought to the classroom that I can do better the next day. And one thing that I always tell myself is that teachers are in this profession not for the salary, because we do not get paid a lot. We do it because we really care, and we love our students, and they become part of our family. And it's something that as a teacher, it's a reciprocal learning experience. They learn from us, and also we learn from them. So it's rewarding at the end of the day.
What motivates me are the relationships with students, getting to see their growth, relationships with families, being able to support the child from all different aspects, relationships with colleagues, getting to support one another and grow together, and just being together as a community to help all students succeed.
So what motivates me to be a special educator is the fact that I can make a difference in students' lives, and taking what they give me as a learning opportunity for myself and being able to do that for them with the expertise that I gain with things, conferences, things like this, with my background in education, and just making that difference. That's what makes it worth it.
I've been in education in some form for a number of years now. I was a music teacher first, and then went to school to become a school psychologist. My motivating factor in terms of how I support kids and getting students interventions and supports and trying to identify needs is kind of core to who I've always wanted to be as an educator, and how we get students to maximize their potential in learning. That's been a drive for me as long as I've been in any field of education, and I love what I do.
The Texas School Ready program is a comprehensive preschool teaching training program that has proven effective to close achievement gaps for at-risk children. The program is housed at UT Health's Children's Learning Institute. Let's take a closer look.
The Children's Learning Institute has a focus and a mission to support very high-risk children who might have learning problems later on, often because of factors such as poverty. We do research, clinical programs, and a lot of work in schools to help teachers and parents support their children's development. The Children's Learning Institute has a very unique model. We first start with the research. With grants, we can test out whether our programs are going to be effective with teachers, families, and children. Then we partner with agencies across the state and the country and take that program into real-life settings. We do that with the use of technology. The Texas School Ready program is one of the Children's Learning Institute's big efforts. It came about from the state of Texas legislation saying to us, find something that works with child care centers, with teachers in public school, or with teachers in Head Start. The components of the Texas School Ready program that were found to be effective in our research are intensive professional development to train teachers in literacy, math, social skill development. It's a progress monitoring system that helps teachers know how children are developing, a curriculum, and face-to-face coaching to support teachers to put the program in place.
Alief is a school district in the west side of Houston, Texas. It's one of the most diverse school districts in the state. We have around 90 languages in our classrooms, and we have a highly diverse population. And in general, the community is known as the international district in the city.
So Alief ISD's mission is preparing students for tomorrow while caring for them today. And it is our belief that we need to start with our youngest learners. So there's a lot of emphasis on early childhood education in our district. Well, the Texas School Ready program has definitely benefited our district. In the past 5 years since I've started working with Alief in this capacity of early childhood department, one of the things we wanted to do was increase the communication and the collaboration with the private child care centers. And Texas School Ready has allowed us to do this. And we've seen, when we look at the data, we see that the students that are in the Texas School Ready program are outperforming those students that either were at home or in different childcare settings.
I have seen a lot of benefits of the Texas School Ready program already in our community. A lot of the times teachers come to us after 1 or 2 years of training and they tell us, I feel like a teacher now. Families have been making comments about the benefits of the program, and whenever they see now the banners of the Texas School Ready, they know that there's quality in that center and they want to get their children there. My main hope is the professionalization of the field, getting better opportunities for teachers, for students to learn more and be ready for the challenges of the school and the life.
Developing Talkers is a fun program for early childhood teachers to use if they want to improve their children's language skills. So it's 2 parts. It's a supplemental curriculum based on read-alouds and small group lessons, as well as professional development for teachers to learn how to facilitate rigorous and challenging conversations in their classroom. Part of what's innovative about the Developing Talkers program is that it exemplifies the Children's Learning Institute model of research to practice. So we started with developing a curriculum based on teacher partnerships and teachers' articulated needs. And then we did many, many years of iterative development with teachers to refine the model and to constantly improve the Developing Talkers program. And now we are moving into larger efficacy studies that continue to unpack exactly what makes this program effective for teachers and students.
I think the Children's Learning Institute is particularly unique because we have this broad array of expertise in the Institute. Faculty that are experts in math, literacy, STEM, language, and all of that expertise comes together in a very integrated, collaborative way to support the work we do for the children of Texas. Brain development in the early years is so critical to children's later learning. And so the role we will play at the Children's Learning Institute in this future goal is to provide resources not just for children in the pre-K years, but in the infant and toddler years when the brain is so rapidly developing and it's in response to stimulation.
Since the Education for All Handicapped Children Act passed in 1975, SRI Education has pioneered 6 national longitudinal studies over the course of 3 decades that's unlocked fundamental insights for special education policy and research communities. Combined, these programs impact 15.6 million children and youth today. CEC TV wanted to learn more about this historic institute.
Back in 1975, Congress passed the very first Education for the Handicapped Act, and that was the very first law that mandated that all children with disabilities receive free and appropriate education. So for the first time, many students with disabilities were enrolling in public schools. They passed legislation that asked the Department of Education to commission a study that would focus on students who were in high school, students with disabilities, and then follow their lives into young adulthood. And SRI won the very first contract to design and implement this study. When it became particularly clear that this study was of huge value was during the amendment to the law. And so Congress passed appropriations to have the Department of Ed have more funding to be able to fund studies that looked at students with disabilities across the age range.
It really started with a 10-year study that was conducted. It's called the NEILS study, the National Early Intervention Longitudinal Study, that followed children who were initially in the early intervention program when that first came into law. IDEA included young children with disabilities in 1986. NEILS is the first and only national study of its kind that gave us the information that we have that now informs our technical assistance. As a result of the studies and the research that have been done here at SRI, we have considerable expertise and knowledge about providing technical assistance to states. And we help states implement that to improve their programs for young children with disabilities and their families. But we also learn from our communities that we work with on the research that needs to be done so we can help improve their services.
Our student behavior research program focuses mainly on applied research. We conduct large-scale studies in schools all over the country, from preschool, elementary, middle school, high school, and also focus on children post-secondary. Our research is focused on helping children with behavior disorders, mental health problems, children exposed to trauma, and our level of research focuses on individual students, small groups, classroom level, to whole school programs. And the focus of the project, we want to make sure that when we start with the research study or start with the intervention, that we start thinking about sustainability from day one. When the grant is over at the end of 3 years or 4 years and we're finished, how can those teachers or the principals continue to implement the program in the schools after we leave?
Special education students, the majority of their academic experience is actually in inclusive general education classrooms. Now, in order to be truly inclusive, we really need these students not only to obtain the appropriate accommodations and supports, but really be in a learning environment that enhances the learning, not just for the student with disability, but for all students in that classroom. So one way that we can approach this is through the Universal Design for Learning framework. And this is an approach that really at its core is meant to identify our understanding that what may be necessary for some students, so those with disabilities, really is meant to benefit all students. With any data that's out there that looks at a nationally representative sample of students in the US with disabilities, SRI has been involved in that work, either as leading the data collection or contributing in some way to these longitudinal studies. From this work that we've been doing, we have affected directly over 15 million students with disabilities in the United States. And that is just tremendously gratifying to know we've had that kind of impact through our research.
And that's it from CEC TV at this year's CEC Convention here in Orlando. A big thank you to all of our interviewees that participated throughout the week who provided an important insight into this year's meeting. Be sure to check out all the content we've highlighted from today's program on the CEC's social media platforms and exclusively in Marriott hotel rooms on channel 168. Till next year, it's goodbye from us at CEC TV.